But see, I don't have to be on camera. I'm lucky. It's just my voice. Ready? It's March 17th, 1992. We're talking to Lou Cardenas in her home at 121 17th Avenue in Longmont. Did I get it right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And again, if you say anything or anything happens that you want to start over, we just do that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, okay. Hi, Lou.
Hi.
This won't hurt too bad. Let's start off with just an idea of, in general, how long have you lived in Longmont? What years did you first live here? And then I know you lived in New Mexico some after that, and then you came back and you've lived here ever since. Can you give us an idea of the years that you've lived in Longmont?
Well, I came over here in 1929 and to work beets. We came, there was a guy from the sugar factory that went to New Mexico, and he was looking for some people to come and work on the beets. So my daddy signed up for that, and there was about 50 people that came on the train with us all the way into Denver. Then the farmers were waiting for the people that they were bringing from New Mexico. They were waiting at the depot in Denver to bring the families that they were going to come and work for them. Mm-hmm. And so the farmer that went after us, he was a farmer from Niwot. We came to Niwot, and we lived in Niwot for that whole summer and until the beets were out in October. Mm-hmm. And then from Niwot we went to another farm, and close to my uncles, because they were one was working for Ken Powell, and the other was working for oh God. Paul something, I can't remember his last name, but he was working for him. Mm-hmm. And so we were almost close together, my family and their families, we were close together.
And that was 1929?
That was in 1929. Mm-hmm. Then we stayed here until about December. At the end of December, we went to New Mexico. We went to see my grandma. Then we were there for a while, and then we came back. And before we came back over here to Longmont, my daddy decided that it was too hard to work on the beet, so he went to look for some other job someplace else. And when he couldn't find a job, he thought he will go to Rocky Ford and work over there in Rocky Ford. So then he sent for us. So we came on the train again to Rocky Ford, and we worked there all that summer. We worked in Rocky Ford from 1935, I guess. No, in maybe 1932, something like that. Anyway, mm-hmm. Because we came back to Longmont in 1935. Oh, okay. And I've been here ever since. We just went back and forth to New Mexico, but not to leave, just to go. When we went to New Mexico, we went to build a house over there for us, but we were only there for 3 months, and we came right back over here. We were only there January, February, and March, and then in April we came right back. And the times that I used to go to New Mexico, I didn't went to stay. I just went like for a visit, 3 months visit, and then right back over here. Mm-hmm. So it's been like, to me it's been like this is where I've been all my life, and I feel like this is my home place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wasn't born here. I was born in New Mexico, Rainsville, New Mexico, and that was my birthplace in mm-hmm. New Mexico. But I've been here ever since 1929. Okay.
That first year that you moved to Longmont, 1929, tell us about your family. How many members of your family, and how old were you?
I was only 10 years old when I came over here in 1929. And my brother was, I'm 2 years older than him. So he must have been about 7, I guess, mm-hmm. because I was 10 and he was smaller than I was. And then it was my father and my mother, and that was my stepmother. Mm-hmm. That we came over here and we worked beets over here.
So you were 10 years old when you started in the
Working the beets.
working in the beet field, but you remember very well what it took. It was hard work. I'm sure it made an impression.
It was a hard work. It sure was, because nowadays when they plant beets, they plant it almost that there's nothing to do. When we were working on the beets, the rows were so thick, about this thick, and then you have to go about 12 inches from one plant to the other. So all these you have to cut down and leave the one here and one here, and then go another 12 inches. And sometimes you go on your knees, and sometimes you go on your back. So it was a hard work. It was a hard work to work like that. And I think that's the whole problem, that the farmers, they saw that the beets were too thick because they were about this, like that, and you had to chop all these and just leave those. And I think that's the reason nowadays they just leave it about almost like 12 inches. Even if there's some in between, well, they cut it, but there's not as much as when we were doing it. Because we were doing it, it was more.
And what tools did you use for that process?
We used a small hoe.
How big?
About this. The handle was about this big. We didn't use a big hoe because you couldn't do it, because half of the time you were on your knees and half of the time you were on your back. When your back started hurting too much, well, you go on your knees and go a long ways on your knees. So then your knees start hurting and you go back on your back again. So it was hard. It was hard to do it.
How I understand being on your knees. How were you on your back hoeing?
Well, see, when you work on the beets, you go like this. See, you work like this, like this, and the other way.
Now don't show me if it's painful.
And then the other time, well, you go like this.
Oh, I see, stooping over from your back.
And your back was really bad.
Aren't you? Sorry. So the process was either down on your knees or stooping over from your back like that. I see. Oh, with a short hoe. Well, that was in the season of beets.
Thinning beets. They used to call them thinning beets.
What time of the year did this happen?
It's the 1st of May. All the thinning beets, it started at the 1st of May.
Okay. Did you white balance?
Yes.
Thank you. I do that for you. So I hadn't done it. Okay. Then the next step in the process of tending the beets came about June. What happened then?
Then at that time we used the long handle hoes, and then we take about 2 rows each to hoe the beets, and that was easy. That was easy. It was easier than the other one.
Because you did that from a standing position?
Yeah.
Of course, as a 10-year-old, a long hoe might be kind of hard too.
It was because
as big as you were.
Yeah, and then in July or August when we did the last one, then the beets were about this high. You know, they grow real high. They're about this high. You can hardly walk on those things. It's too hard to walk on them because the things are so high, you know, and. So then you have to stoop down again to pull all the weeds. So it was a hard job, especially for a 10-year-old.
No kidding. Then the final step was the harvest in October.
Yeah.
What happened then? How does one harvest beets in 1929?
Well, to harvest the beets, that was a different story. I'm going to use again this thing. Okay. You know, I don't know how to describe it. But they plow the beets over here, and well, they take about 4 roads, and then when they come back, there's another 4 roads. So you take the 2 of us take this 4, and the other 2 take these other 4, and then you pile in on the middle, so the beets have to stay like this, and then you go like that all the way to the other end. And then when it's time to cut the tops, you stand on this side, and the knife that you have, it has a long thing like that on the end. And then you go like that to get the beets, and you get them over here. And I can't even handle them on my hand, so I had to put them in here so I could chop the thing off. And it was hard, because the beets were so big, you know, and you have to be careful not with that thing that the knife has on the bottom, on the end. A lot of people used to hit their legs with it. I never did, but a lot of people did.
So, and you're taking the top off the beets, which is all the leafy part?
Yeah.
And what would happen to the leafy part and to the beets?
Well, there's the leaves goes on this way, and then when you have the piles like that in the middle, there's nothing. And then this guy goes with they used to call it the A. He goes and level this land over here. Then you was when you was cutting the beets, you were making pile over here, and then one over here, and then over here. So when the truck comes in, the beets weren't all scattered down. They were all in a pile, so they can shovel them up in the truck.
Now, you were too small for that work, weren't you?
Oh yeah, we didn't do anything like that. There was the farmer has two other guys to do that. He hired two other guys to do that.
And so, of all those separate steps, there were times in between when the beets didn't need much work. Did you take a vacation? Did you stay at home? Did you find other work? What happened in between those steps with the beet farm?
Well, we never did get out of the beets. And those years, it was different than now, because everything is with machine. By the time they finish the beets, everything is maybe by the middle of November. They don't. And when we were doing the beets, we stay on almost until December topping beets, because then the snow comes and you have to stop, and you don't work, and you have to wait until. And a lot of times, when we used to see that the snow was coming, the farmer used to plow and plow and plow, and we used to make piles of beets. Then we didn't put them in a line like we used to do it before. Then we piled them up, and it was more harder that way to get them out of there, because they were frozen already. So then they had one of those picks that they used for the mines. We used to have one of those picks to get to break the ice out of the piles of beets so we can work on the beets. One was doing that, and the rest of them were topping beets. So it's a hard job. It is a hard job.
After the first hoeing in June until the next hoeing or so in July, did you have times where the beets didn't need any work and you did something else?
Oh, we always find a job to do, because we used to go to Fort Lupton and pick tomatoes and pick beans and pick peas, because at that time there were no machine to pick beans or peas like afterwards. Afterwards they had machines to pick peas and beans. But the beans, we used to pick beans and tomatoes and cucumbers and all kinds of or pickles. We used to pick pickles for the what is the name of that fabric? For the cuner.
Cuner Imson. Tell me about a typical day in, say, in June. It's a summer day, and you're a 10-year-old girl. What time do you get up? What do you do? How do you spend your whole day until you go to bed?
I spend my whole day working, helping on the house, cleaning floors, doing little chores that they're supposed to be doing at home. So I was helping my mother do all those little works that they're supposed to be, washing dishes, and a lot of times washing clothes, helping my mother wash clothes. So I was busy all the time. I didn't have time to go play with anybody. I was working all the time.
So that was your day off, right?
Yeah, and my brothers were too. My daddy always kept us busy all the time.
What about one of the days when you were going to go out to hoe the beets? What time did your day start, and I understand you had to take your breakfast with you, or
Oh
had to take your
yes,
lunch with you.
when we first came to Niwot, we didn't have no car, so we walked about 2-3 miles with our lunches and the water and the hose and everything else. We were just carrying everything on our hands because there was no way that we can carry it out there. And we used to walk about 2 miles, 2.5 miles, or 3 miles because it was far.
And how long were you in the field in a day? What time did you get there?
From sundown to sunset. From the sun comes up to the sun's all the way down. So it was a long day.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go home, make supper, get things for the breakfast, and start for the lunches for the next day. So by the time we went to bed, it was about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and then we have to get up real early and go. It was a job either way.
Mm-hmm.
It was a job either way.
Mm-hmm. An awful lot of people came to Longmont for the economic opportunity
Mm-hmm.
of working in the sugar beet fields. And I think an awful lot of people, whether they were Germans from Russia or Japanese or Hispanics, came and found out how much intense work, handwork, there was involved.
Yeah.
You said that your dad even got tired of working in the sugar beet fields, or thought that it was more work than the pay,
Yeah.
and so he looked for other things to do as well.
Yeah, but he couldn't find any, so we came back to the same old thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When the machines came along and took some of that handwork out of sugar beets, maybe that.
Well, the thinning we still did until about 70. In the 60s, we were still doing it by hand. In the 60s, but then by that time, the machine came in the late 60s, I guess. The machines came to top beets. Then they were using machines because my husband was helping on the machines to work on the beets, topping beet. But the thinning of the beets, we did it all by hand still in the 60s. Not until the 70s that they found out how to plant the beets in a different way, that they don't have to stoop down or go on their knees to do the work that we used to do before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot easier now than before.
Mm-hmm. What was your impression, or what were your feelings when they closed the sugar factory here in town?
Well, by that time I was already not working on the fields.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of bad because they took away a lot of the jobs for a lot of the people, because that was the main thing for a lot of the people, because there's not that many beets anymore in Longmont like they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the farmers around here, they used to had a lot of beets, but they don't have them anymore like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as everything shut off, just like the Cunor, when the Cunor went out over here in Longmont, a lot of the jobs went out too, because only Fort Lupton and Brighton and all those places from out there, they had the Cunor, and very few farmers from here, they took their things over to Brighton. And then when that one closed, was everything. A lot of people came out of jobs. They didn't have no more jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been hard for a lot of people, because all those things that they could work on, they were shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, by that time, turkey plant came in, and a lot of people started working on the turkey plant. So that was another good thing. And then later on, IBM. So, but still, there's still a lot of people out of jobs.
Mm-hmm. Did any of your family or friends go to work for IBM?
No.
No? Mm-mm. I don't know anybody who works out there either. I see it out there. I don't know what goes on. You talked to me the other day a little bit about the Boulder County Fair and how much you enjoyed it. What years did you go with your family, your new family, your husband and your children, perhaps? And what did you enjoy the most?
Oh, everything. Me and my husband used to go and watch the rodeo, and the kids were out in the carnival and all that, and we enjoyed it when they have it at the Roosevelt Park. And now that they took it out of there, we don't even go, because there's too much traffic over there. Mm. But when he was over here in Longmont, my kids were all little, and that was in the 60s and 70s until about the 80s, I think. And then when they moved it over there, But we really enjoyed it. We really enjoyed the fairs over here at the Roosevelt Park. And they used to celebrate 4th of July too in there. So they took away everything that was joy, you know, for the old people.
The grandstand, when they took that down?
Yeah.
I understand there was a big furor in town. There was quite an uproar when they tore the grandstand down.
Oh yeah,
Do
the
you
people
remember
they
that?
they wanted it there. And because, like I said, everybody was disappointed that they were going to take everything and move it someplace else, because it was fun. It was fun. And then the 4th of July, when they had the fireworks, boy, the grass over there, everybody looked like a bunch of sheep laying on the grass over there looking at the fireworks. But it was nice. All the families get together, you know, friends and families, and we have a picnic and everything. But it was fun. It was fun. And now they took the joys out of the people when they moved everything out of town.
And speaking of the 70s,
Excuse me. We're going to run out of tape.
okay, you want to do a tape change? Okay, good. Well, we have to change